Hey, everybody, welcome to What Happened This Week, the Enoch Pratt Free Library's live current events quiz for kids. I'm your host, Paula Willie. I work at the Orleans Street branch where I help people find accurate information and valuable resources every day. I'm here with 5 multiple choice questions about what's been happening in the world. Have you been paying attention? And listen, don't worry if you don't know all the answers. We'll go over them at the end and share some great ways to learn more. All right. For our first question, since we first started covering COVID on the news quiz, we've learned about ways to slow the spread of the virus. We've learned about creative ways to encourage mask wearing. And then finally, we talked about vaccines. But what we haven't talked about is treatment. Like, what medicine can you take if you actually get COVID? My family all came down with COVID this December. And even though our cases weren't severe, they also weren't much fun. But now there's an antiviral drug that can be used to treat COVID. Vice President Kamala Harris, who, like my family, is fully vaccinated and boosted, tested positive last week. And even though she has no COVID symptoms, she was prescribed the drug Paxlavid. My question for you, what does Paxlavid do? Does it boost COVID vaccines? Does it reduce the severity of COVID symptoms? Does it prevent COVID? Or does it just make you forget the last 2 years? The vice president is far from the first White House worker to test positive for COVID. In April alone, 2 White House staffers and at least 19 members of Congress all tested positive for COVID-19. However, all of these individuals had been vaccinated and boosted, and none of those infections resulted in a severe case or a hospitalization. Did you know that you can get up-to-date information on COVID infection rates and hospitalizations just by Googling the word COVID? Let's do that right now and let me show you. I type COVID into Google. First, it's going to give me top stories and then statistics from the New York Times. It says it right there, last updated 21 hours ago. So we can narrow this down to just the last 3 months. We can, this is for Baltimore, but we can say, give me all of Maryland. And then we can say, give me the whole United States. So it's a very powerful piece of information to have right at your fingertips whenever you want it. All right. The pandemic hasn't ended, as you can tell from those numbers, but with the widespread availability of vaccines and the emergence of less deadly variants, governments and companies have been easing up on certain pandemic restrictions, including Disneyland. After 2 years of pandemic restrictions, my question, what is once again allowed at Disney parks? Fireworks, hugging, pets, or the Mickey Waffle? Which of these things were put on hold during the pandemic and are now back? And follow-up question, would you feel comfortable going to a crowded place like an amusement park right now? Question 3. Even though fewer people are getting COVID and fewer still are getting severely ill from it, it's still a scary subject. So let's watch some birds. Have you ever watched a flock of birds take off or change direction all at once? We can see that even here in the city with pigeons who like to circle above intersections sometimes. Have you ever wondered how they do that all at the same time? Are they yelling out signals to each other in bird language? Different birds form larger or smaller flocks, but one of the coolest is a flock of starlings like the one we're watching. During the winter, starlings, wow, look at that. During the winter, starlings roost tightly packed together in large numbers for warmth. So sometimes they all lift off together and fly in these swirling hypnotic flocks called a murmuration. Starling murmurations can consist of hundreds of thousands of birds and last as long as 45 minutes. Google them just to watch like we're watching now. All right. You know what I want to know? Why? Why do they do this? Is it a feeding frenzy? Are they celebrating spring? Are they showing off to potential mates? Or are they avoiding predators? Actually, I have many questions. I want to know how they do this, and I want to know where I can go to watch this in person, but I will settle for why do they do it first. All right, question 4. From the great outdoors to the great indoors, did you know that May 6th is National School Lunch Hero Day? School lunch heroes work hard to put nutritious, tasty food in front of students so that they have the energy to learn. I've got a cool video of how they make school lunch for 18 schools in Musashino City in Japan. Let's watch while we learn a little about school lunch. Here in Baltimore, every school can offer students free meals, but that's not the case elsewhere in the country. A family might pay up to $80 or even $100 per month, and that's just for lunch. However, school districts throughout the United States have been able to provide free meals to all students since the start of the pandemic through a series of waivers issued by the United States Department of Agriculture. That was tofu. That was really cool, the way they cubed it and sent it down. According to the Food Research and Action Center, free school meals have a measurable benefit on student health and well-being, especially for low-income students, ensuring that students have nutrition they need throughout the day to learn. Research shows that receiving free or reduced price school lunches reduces food insecurity, obesity rates, and poor health. In addition, the new school meal nutrition standards are having a positive impact on student food selection and consumption, especially for fruits and vegetables. My gosh, I am so hungry looking at this. All right, here is my question. What is students' favorite cafeteria food? Is it pizza, quesadillas, meatball sub, or none of the above? Here in Baltimore, as I said, all students get free school meals, but the rest of the country, those school lunch waivers are set to expire at the end of June. Extending that funding would have to go through Congress. And sure enough, Senators Debbie Stabenow and Lisa Murkowski introduced a bill last month that would do just that. So stay tuned. For our last question, let's go up in the air. I don't know about you, but I am fascinated by drones. Ever since these unmanned aerial vehicles, or UAVs, became possible, people have found cool things to do with them. They've been sent into dangerous places like this volcano. They've been sent into a tornado, which is a place that is way too dangerous for a human to go. Spoiler, those places are also too dangerous for drones to go. Neither the volcano drone or this one came back in one piece. Drones have also made sports coverage more dynamic, and farmers can use drones equipped with a tank to spray their crops. They've been used to deliver everything from life-saving drugs, like here in Uganda, to Chipotle burritos. Another occupation that has started using drones is firefighters. What do you think firefighters use drones for? Is it A, to start fires, B, to deliver burritos to fire victims, C, to find hotspots within fires, or D, all of the above? We had a drone at my house once. I sent it up in the air after a snowstorm to see what my neighborhood looked like covered in snow, and I crashed it. And because of the deep snow, we never found it. So that's a sad story. All right, 5 questions, and now for your 5 answers. Our first question was about Paxlavid, and what does it do? It has been found to reduce the severity of COVID symptoms. Vice President Harris tested positive for COVID, so they gave her Paxlavid in the hopes that if she does get sick from the virus, it won't be too bad. At the same time, the White House put forward new efforts to make Paxlavid more widely available at local drugstores so you don't have to work in the White House to get this drug. The drugs manufacturer was hoping that Paxlavid would also help to keep people exposed to COVID from getting it. They gave it to people living in the same house as a person who had tested it positive, but it unfortunately didn't seem to have much effect. But nearly 90% effective at preventing hospitalization or death in COVID patients, that's a good drug. All right, for more than 2 years since the pandemic began, interaction with Disneyland's walking characters has been limited to waving, but now hugs are back. I honestly don't know if I would be comfortable going to a crowded amusement park right now. Instead, my family, like lots of people, has spent more time exploring national and state parks like Blackwater National Wildlife Refuge on Maryland's Eastern Shore. Some parks participate in a cool citizen science program called Chronolog, which lets you contribute to time-lapse views that show the ecosystem in all weather and throughout the year. So let's take a look. You see, she's putting her camera on a special little cradle, and everybody does. So you end up, and let's go to Blackwater. There's Maryland, and Blackwater is down here on the Eastern Shore. And if I click on this dot, it's going to show me time lapse of Blackwater National Wildlife Refuge throughout the year. You can see it in the winter. It looks pretty brown, but fast forward to April and it's starting to get green again. It's kind of cool to see the way the vegetation comes back and then dies in the fall. All right, back to our quiz. Oh, this is what it looks like if you're in a park like this and want to participate in a chronolog. All right. Question 3, why do starlings form murmurations? There's no single definitive answer for why they do this. I mean, it's not like we can ask them. But most scientists think that it helps protect the birds from predators. Moving like a single large entity confuses predators and lowers the risk for each individual bird, a phenomenon called the dilution effect. Individual birds within the murmuration are sometimes moving at speeds exceeding 90 miles an hour, but somehow they do not bump into each other. Instead, they fly in harmony with almost perfect mathematical precision. But how? How are they doing that? The most compelling evidence suggests that each starling in the flock communicates with just a handful of other starlings, probably 6 or 7, and follows their cues and copies their movements. When one bird moves, its nearest neighbors do, just like in a flash mob, and so on and so forth. So it's just like the wave at a sports event. If you're feeling like getting out into nature yourself and taking a look at birds, Baltimore's parks offer great opportunities. May 7th at Herring Run, there's a bird walk at 8 o'clock in the morning. You got to get up pretty early to look at the birds. Herring Run is home to a wide variety of songbirds, water birds, and even bald eagles. All right, this question, what's students' favorite school lunch option? This is none of the above because people are all different. Doing a school lunch poll is a fun way to learn about statistics and to get some insight into your school. One thing, so here are like 3 different polls and they're all different. One says we like mini cheeseburgers the most. The other one says lasagna the most. It just depends. One thing that does come back in poll after poll, students want more diversity and more healthy options in their lunch choices. Jared Krasaska, author and illustrator of the Lunch Lady books, founded School Lunch Hero Day to give students and caregivers an opportunity to recognize the hardworking professionals in your school cafeterias. There's Jarrett. Amen. All right. Answer 5. Can you believe the answer for how do firefighters use drones is all of the above? And you're saying, what? Firefighters don't start fires, they put them out. Well, this is a new drone developed by a team at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln that drops ping pong ball sized fireballs that they call dragon eggs, because of course they can. That's so cool. Firefighters use fire to stop the spread of larger fires by removing dry grass and brush that would feed the larger fire. I think I just said fire 5 times in one sentence. Using the drone, they can precisely control where they start the controlled fires, and they can use the drone to get to places that are too dangerous for manned aircraft. Fire and rescue crews have also used drones to deliver supplies and food to crews and victims in emergency situations. Payloads weighing up to 1 pound can be dropped with a parachute from the drone. And drones equipped with heat-sensing cameras can see through thick smoke and even see through walls to find lingering hotspots, which, if not extinguished, can reignite fires. You can send a drone to inaccessible places, Currently, they're used to see wildfires even when the fire has cut off access. And now firefighters are using drones attached to hoses to fight fires up in the air. This is an exercise in China where they are simulating a skyscraper fire, and their fire department is sending drones, there you can see them, attached to hoses to spray foam in places that a regular firefighting ladder wouldn't be able to reach. We're going to hear a lot more about firefighting in the coming months, as it's already wildfire season in some areas. Here on the News Quiz, we've explored airnow.gov, the live interactive air quality map maintained by the U.S. Forest Service. But the big fire right now is in New Mexico. So we're going to take a look at New Mexico's fire weather and avalanche map. This is also live and online, and you can see these big fires up here. When you click on them, you get an overview, you get pictures and video, and what is going to happen in the future. This is a lot of information in one spot, and it's the same with any of the fires throughout New Mexico. All right, good luck, New Mexico people. All right, that's our 5 questions. But listen, it's been a while since we've done a challenge on the News Quiz. I've got one for you. In 6th grade math, students learn about tiling the plane, which means covering a 2-dimensional surface with copies of the same shape or shapes such that there are no gaps or overlaps. This is also called tessellation, which is a very fun word. Mathematicians have proven that all triangles and 4-sided shapes can tile the plane, and they have documented all of the convex 6-sided shapes that can do it. But 5-sided shapes are trickier. You should try it yourself and see how you do. In 2015, 3 mathematicians discovered the first new pentagon, 5-sided objects with the angles all pointing outward, known as convex pentagon, that was able to tile the plane. Now there are 15 pentagons that can tile it. What? Your challenge, find that new shape. Find the most recent of these pentagons and tell me what you have learned about it. Send the picture or your answer to orl@prattlibrary.org, and we'll give you a shout out on the News Quiz next month. Hey, that's it for me today. But before we say goodbye, if there's 2 things we like here at the News Quiz, it's playing and learning. And a great place to learn by playing is Baltimore's Port Discovery. Visit your library this month to pick up your ticket to Discovery. Any kid in 5th grade or younger can earn free admission for themselves and a caregiver by reading 5 books. But you have to pick up your ticket at the library, so we will see you there. As always, your News Quiz relies on authoritative sources for our information. Sources like the New Mexico Fire Weather and Avalanche Center, the White House, NPR, and the University of Nebraska. And so should you. Thanks for playing along, and we'll see you next month, News Nerds.